People don't really have business problems. They have internal emotional issues. People say, money is a frequency, money is an energy. But if you don't really understand that, it's like, It's hard to grasp.
So what can you promise them today to gain if they give us their time?
Clarity. Focus on clarity and that internal understanding.
But I can't go into meditation. So you said there's a moment of time that your first meditation was a kicker for something. Can you tell me about this?
And so first thing, let's go ahead and focus there on your root chakra at the base of your spine. And draw that line of energy all the way down to the center of Gaia, the center of Mama Gaia.
A practical person. Like, okay, I want to be wealthy. It doesn't matter I put it from outside, I get it from inside. I just want to be wealthy. What you will recommend to them? Sitara, to becoming one of the top 5 female psychics and mediums in the US, a powerful healer and a transformational mentor. She is the CEO and founder of Monad, a quantum business school for intuitive entrepreneurs, helping individuals unlock their gifts, heal their past, and create thriving, soul-centered businesses. What is a word of advice for leaders to work more together?
I love this. The answer is...
Welcome back, Alpha Squad. This is the Alpha Talks show, the #1 fastest growing show in the region, where we dive deep into the minds of trailblazers, industry giants, and visionaries who are reshaping the world. Today's Alpha guest is someone whose journey is nothing short of extraordinary. She went from struggling with unresolved pain and numbing coping mechanism to becoming one of the top 5 female psychics and mediums in the US, a powerful healer and a transformational mentor. She is the CEO and founder of Monad, a quantum business school for intuitive entrepreneurs, helping individuals unlock their gifts, heal their past, and create thriving, soul-centered businesses. Her story is one of pain, awakening, and transformation. From hitting rock bottom to embracing her spiritual gifts and building businesses that empower others. Her insights will change the way you think about intuition, healing, and business success. So Sitara, welcome to the Alpha Talks show. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
How do you feel today?
I feel alive.
Yeah.
I feel vibrant. There's electricity happening.
That's good. We have a nugget question in the beginning.
All right.
Let's say once we publish the episode, people will see the thumbnail, they will see the graphics, they will see the title, and they will think it's an extremely interesting episode. So what can you promise them today to gain if they give us their time?
Clarity. If there's anything in life, right, fork in the road, something isn't quite fitting right, a little bit of confusion around which way to go, I would say focus on clarity and that internal understanding.
Super looking forward. Let's go back in the days. What was your early days look like? And you passed through a lot of struggles and pain. I want to get into this part or phase of your life.
Okay.
So, 'cause I want to get into a point, where is the turning point and
Okay.
how it happened.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, I think a lot of healers and people that have strong gifts come from a deep, deep wounded. Like the wounded healer archetype is very much a reality. And I think a lot of it is because we have to learn to heal ourselves through the pain that we endure. So if you really any top oracles or channels or psychics, you could ask them about their 0 to 7, and there's usually some pretty extraordinary pain and challenges. I like to kind of protect the people that were involved in that, but ultimately where it led me was to getting my degree in psychology. Yeah. I really had to understand what was going on in my world and in my life to understand why in certain cases, I could look and reflect at so many of my classmates' life and be like, wow, it looks so, pretty and nice. And I know some of that is an illusion itself, but ultimately, why was I seeing a counselor at 6 years old? Why was I having to have, learn adult communication at a very early age? And so I actually call it the accelerated learning path. So even, from the age of 12, 13, people would say, wow, you're so mature. And we don't really understand at that time that it's really from the trauma that was happening. But ultimately it was like the intensity of that pain. I started drinking very young as well. I came from a town culture where that was actually kind of the norm in the States. And I got to a point where I was actually on the dean's list honor roll, paying for my own tuition, getting my degree in psychology, while also just raging in my own addictions. And, you know, I felt like I was living two different lives. And I knew that I felt like I broke the system. Because I'm like, well, if you are a degenerate, you shouldn't be getting on the dean's list. You shouldn't be on the honor roll sort of thing. And so I kind of got to a point where I almost like maxed out. And I think there was an awareness that I was like slowly killing myself at that time just by numbing and the dissociation and the intensity of the pain. But it led me to kind of seek something else. So I got familiar with Dr. Brian Weiss's work, and he has a book that's called Many Lives, Many Masters, which he was like clinical psychologist, scientific mind, and he used hypnosis to help a client of his who ended up accidentally bringing her into past life memories. And so from that, literally went on to write tons of different books and meditations, and I'm sure he's still leading cruise ships sort of stuff. But that book was given to me right in the middle of me getting my degree in psychology. And so I noticed that psychology focused on mind and body and completely left out the spirit. If it wasn't measurable by technology, well, then we'll just throw it out. And to me, I'm like, hang on, schizophrenia, multiple personality disorders, these are some pretty, extreme personality circumstances, situations that to me was explainable through the spiritual lens, seeing it from a spiritual aspect, that if a human being is being tormented with schizophrenia, then what's happening is that there is an entity or there is a being that is bullying them essentially from the unseen world. Same with...
A quick note, before we jump into this episode, I find this incredibly intriguing. On the back end of our YouTube channel, it says around 75% of you who watch this channel frequently over the lifetime of this channel haven't yet hit the subscribe button. I just wanted to ask you for a favor. It helps this channel so much if you choose to just subscribe. It helps us invite guests that give you great value. It helps us scale the production and as well makes this show bigger and bigger for you. So if I will ask you just one favor, and if you enjoyed the previous episodes and you're currently enjoying this episode, could you please hit the subscribe button? I love your support. It's incredible to see all your comments and engagement, and we are just starting. I can't wait to go on this journey with you. Thank you so much, and I will repay this gesture by making sure that everything we do on this show makes it bigger, and better. I'm committed to do this promise. Do we have a deal? Thank you so much for subscribing. It means the world to me. Can I ask you a question here?
Yeah, for sure.
Turning to spirituality in general,
yeah,
from my perspective, is like when I have no hope anymore with what's happening around me or whatever tools exist, then I turn to spirituality.
Yeah.
That was the angle, because maybe the pain that you had, you couldn't solve it by any means.
Yeah.
So that's an angle that you thought at the beginning, maybe let me try to find it there.
Absolutely.
It was correct that
I was curious because the Many Lives, Many Masters, I was curious about past lives. I had my first past life memory come up when I was 12 years old. So I knew that there was something going on there, but I was also raised very Christian. So it was like conflict of interest sort of thing. And so I did a past life memory, like meditation, and had a extremely profound experience. I saw my soul leave my body. I saw myself being murdered, and I was like 20 years old in my bedroom by myself. And I was kind of searching for answers. And I happened to be driving down the road, and I saw an A-frame for a psychic institute that was having like a psychic fair, little 15-minute readings. And I went in, I explained a tiny bit of that experience, and this woman went into detail explaining everything that I had experienced. And that was my first real tangible experience of like, okay, there's no way she would have known any of that type of situation. That really started getting the wheels turning for me as far as what else is there. You mentioned you're a very curious person, and I've never stopped being curious.
Yeah, of course. So here where everything started.
Yeah.
Then you've been talking about like the first time you did meditation, something kicked in.
Yes.
Coming from a person who can't do meditation, I can't I don't know how. I just know, like, okay, I can sit somewhere.
Right.
But I can't go into meditation. Like, either I sleep or my thoughts keep coming in and out. So you said there's a moment of time that your first meditation was a kicker for something.
Massive.
Yeah.
Massive.
Can you tell me about this?
Yeah. So I actually enrolled in classes at that psychic institute. They had like 8-week meditation classes. And it ended up being what they called psychic kindergarten. And so I was like, okay, little plot twist. But what happened was I ended up basically realizing that I knew how to ride a bike that I didn't even know existed. And so when they started teaching the tools and understanding, it was like, oh my gosh, I know how this works. And all of a sudden, like dots started connecting. And one of the biggest like awarenesses and ahas that I had was I just assumed that people experience the world the same way that I did. And once I started having conversations with other psychics, it was like, my whole world opened up in a different way where things that didn't previously make sense all of a sudden started making sense. Okay. And so that's where I started finding the answers I was looking for. That was, you know, being raised Christian, there's so much focus on where you go when you die. And I remember being in Sunday school and being like, where did we come from? How did we get here? I'm so curious about that. You know, it's not biological. And so there were certain circumstances and readings that I had experienced at that institute that answered questions psychology never in a million years could have answered.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah. So I have had, and, you know, I hold my mother in the deepest graces. I love her and honor her for the role that she has played in my life. And there was an extraordinary amount of challenge in that relationship. And so my biggest question was, like, how did I get this experience? How did my life line up to have this experience? You know, and looking at the moms in PTA that were baking sugar cookies and being like, like, why? You know? And so psychology never in a million years could have answered that. And I had an experience where we were at the institute. We usually would have people come in, they'd pay like $30 to have us read them so that we could train and learn to get better. Well, we didn't have anyone come in, and so we all wrote a name in a hat, and I chose to write down my mother's, and I knew, one of those knowings, like I knew that's what we were going to be doing that night. And so my colleague was sitting, he was basically sitting in the main chair, and so then we, crown chakra, kind of turned to the same channel like walkie-talkies. So what he's seeing, I'm kind of like looking at the same kind of screen, if you will, and it's all in the unseen world, our fifth dimensional bodies. And so he started reading a past life of hers, and I actually saw from childhood into growing up that life that I had seen myself being murdered, she was the one that was in the body that actually murdered me in that lifetime. And then what happened was it almost like opened Pandora's box. And I saw just a slideshow of these thousands of years that my mother and I had incarnated in different roles, sisters in Egypt, different, like working in marketplace in India, like all sorts of different roles that we had played in each other's lives. And that there was this deeper soul knowing that even though it was challenging to have the experiences that I've had in this life, her role has also shaped certain character traits that I would not have developed otherwise. And simultaneously that there was a way for us to actually clear the karma of what had been going on so that we could actually get off of this cycle, so to speak. And that, I think I was like 21 when that happened. And that's when I went, I'm going to be a psychic. Like psychology could not touch that. And I went, let's go this way. Because I found that even 30 minutes of a reading with a novice student could clear years, if not lifetimes, of karmic challenges. And I just found that was like the fastest way to heal.
I love, but I want to dig deep. So, 21, these things happened.
Yeah.
And of course, it changed your trajectory in life. Where did you take your life afterwards?
I've never stopped doing this.
You never stopped?
Never stopped. Yeah, I've had a couple like offshoot, jobs here or there. And I lived in Northern California. I worked in the wine industry. I noticed that people at my table, they would have these breakthroughs. I didn't know what a breakthrough was at that time, but they would like start crying and all of a sudden have these realizations. And so I'm talking to my colleagues, like, is this happening with you guys? They're like telling jokes, laughing hysterically. And so I knew that there was something going on. And so it actually started the exploration of like, who am I and why am I different? Okay. And I just went extremely deep into that. And fast forward to where I am today is that it taught me how to unlock certain codes of understanding within my own soul and how my own soul came here to express and to, lead in certain ways and to live out my dharma, that by unlocking those codes and kind of experiencing the opening of those bridges is now how I show other people how to do the same, because it's about showing you what's already there.
So
yeah,
if I go back in days, 21 years old, and you've been talking about these things, majority of the people will look at you and say, look, what you're talking about. It's not logical.
Yeah,
I can't make sense out of it. How did you act with this? Did you like, okay, I will prove it to you, let me do this or that? Like, how did you, because you wanted to have, I don't want to say it's a career, but you had a mission.
Yeah, it's a career.
And a mission.
Yeah.
Like above that, it's a mission and a purpose.
Absolutely.
So you wanted to pursue that, but you have a lot of kind of objections, challenges to pursue that.
Yeah.
And okay, maybe let me show you. Or no, I'll go my way and we'll see how it's going to go. So how did you handle this?
In a bunch of different ways. I think this was actually one of the first videos that I made on YouTube, was like how to handle skeptics, because I got it so often. I don't actually get that now, but at the beginning, I think it was kind of reflecting my own doubt and my own skepticism, because yes, I was born with these abilities, but I also did everything I could to push them down and turn them off and like just like shut it off, put it away. It turns out you can't do that. None of us can. So I think as I got more confident in my own understanding, those questions stopped coming. But when they were coming, some of them kind of shook me. Some of them kind of hurt my feelings. I had one friend who was also a psychology major that told me he was like legitimately concerned about my mental health, where for me, I was stepping into a world that made more sense than literally anything I'd ever experienced. And I really just, I don't know, some of them I let go. I never really liked to prove it. I did have that experience with my uncle. My uncle's kind of a guy.
It was hard when
he's
it comes
a dude.
from a family member.
Yeah, he's a dude. And so he didn't want to believe that was, I think, real. And so we said, if you're Miss Cleo, what am I thinking right now? And at first I'm like, I don't even want to play this game. And then something was just like, do it. So I was like, okay, I'll tune in. And I just simply said, it sounds obvious, but I simply said that you don't believe in these abilities and you don't think that there's anything that I'm saying or doing that's true. And I kind of like haven't really heard from him. There was a couple of interesting experiences that also happened in my family around Christianity, that is believing that what I'm doing, let's say, is not of the work of the light, but that also has never come with questions. It's never come with curiosity. It's never come with a desire to understand. And I would say that, my relationship with Source, Creator, God, however we want to describe that energy, is so much more clear now than it ever has been and ever was in religion. So I really just think instead of proving it, it's really how I embody the truth of the understanding that I'm walking with, that I don't necessarily feel that I need to prove it to anybody unless I want to play that game.
But I love it. Let's simplify it more to the viewers.
Okay.
So if I ask you, Sitara, what you do and what you do to help people, like in a very, I would say, simplistic words.
I help them to understand the truth of who they are on a soul level.
How?
through conversations, through meditations. I found that when I was learning to do readings, I could just as easily read somebody's past life. You were this in a past life, da 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 da. And then the person's like, well, the ego gets involved. And the ego's like, well, I believe it. I don't believe it. I want to believe it. Oh, I was a king. And then you see that whole thing go on. And ultimately, what I found was so much more beneficial is if I could actually show them how to read their own past lives. Like, let me show you how to open this information so that you can see it for yourself. Because once somebody sees it for themselves, it's not a matter of do I believe it or not. It's a matter of I had this experience. True. And so that was kind of like the beginning of that exploration and learning how I could best show people how to find it within themselves. Okay. And it started through a book club. Actually, stepping into the entrepreneurial side of things, I was reading a lot of books that were way over my head, but I wanted people to talk with about them, and so I decided to launch a book club, and that book club ended up leading me into my first multiple six-figure year.
Wow! Can I go back to this reading the past?
Yeah, for sure.
So let's say, for example, I read my past, or everybody, like anybody watching this episode. Okay, I read my past. What's in my past can influence my future? Is it the traumas that happens in the past, or it's what?
Great question. Couple things. One is that the first time you have a past life memory that's activated, it changes your entire paradigm of how this world works. Because if you maybe had been skeptical before, then you have your first experience, you start to go, okay, maybe some of what I was taught was wrong. And then you start having an ego death, like an existential kind of ego death that's like, okay, maybe a lot of what I was taught is wrong. And so it just starts peeling away these layers so that that inner truth can start coming alive. The other part of that is that it kind of like I think of it as like pulling a thread. It's that if you start pulling that thread, it just opens this whole world. So it's not just the ego death that happens, it's also the illumination of that inner truth that, for me to really simplify it, is what brings ultimate fulfillment. That like laying on your deathbed kind of experience of like, I am satisfied with my life, not the accomplishments, the achievements, the accolades, the who's who, the clout. It's like, no, it's like, I am satisfied with what I came here to do. That is like, in my eyes, the greatest gift that I can ever share with another person, is to help them realize that within themselves.
I love that. But I want to clarify, when I talk about my past life, means when I was 1, 2, 3 years old, or past life before even I was born?
Before you were born.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say we looked at my past. Couple of things like the blockage, the ego, the. Is my purpose in life in my past life? Because in order to have a proper fulfillment, I believe I have to follow my purpose, right? To understand who I am, why I'm here, what should I do?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are, let's say, stuck, lost. Even like, we've talked about a couple of people, a couple of industries that they feel empty at the end of the day because they're running after something monetary, but it's not actually their purpose.
Right.
So they feel empty.
Right.
So by looking at my past, will I discover really my purpose? Because a lot of people ask me this question: how can I define my purpose? How can I find it?
So, okay, simplest way to find it. What brings you the most joy? That's it.
You keep trying things and see
Yeah.
the joy.
Like what in your life that you've experienced that makes you feel most at home in your body and brings you the most joy?
You know, the problem is these days, I believe, we connect joy with different things. Like,
Okay.
which means like, okay, I'm gonna be happy if I make my partner happy, if I make my mother happy, if I accomplish this particular thing on my way to my mission. So it's not, I would not say only a particular thing. So it's a combination of things. Of all these things happened,
Right.
I will be happy. It can be, at the end of the day, it's something that makes me happy. It's not something that makes me a living.
Right.
Okay.
So Are you familiar with Ikigai?
Yeah.
Right. So Ikigai is one way, but happiness and joy are, I would define them as two completely different things. Happiness is momentary. Happiness is a choice. Happiness is, we can like, mentally program ourselves to always look for the silver lining and live in that, great. What I'm talking about is that deep internal, like guttural fulfillment, but that joy that comes from that absolute rapture where you are doing something and you're like, yes, like this is it. This is it. Like, I remember the first time I put my foot on stage, I felt more at home than literally anything I've ever done. And so I went, okay, there's really something to this. And what I'm supposed to be doing in my Dharma is clearly to be seen, to be visible, to share a very profound message that most people look at as a one lesser intelligence, don't even believe it exists, face the skeptics, face the criticism, face the judgment, show up also as a woman, oftentimes in a man's world. There's so much of that is extraordinarily challenging, right? But still, every single time one of those challenges arises, I either have the choice to continue to show up because I want to experience more of that joy that is that fulfillment, or I like buckle. And I've had seasons of buckling, years of buckling, and I've had years of like full expansion and visibility. And it's, to me, the joy that is internal has nothing to do literally with anybody else. It's not, can I make my partner happy? Is my mom going to be happy with me if I make this decision? I'll tell you, my parents were not happy that I chose to be a psychic.
Of course.
They're like, what? It wasn't until I was on the cover of a book that was the 300 best light workers, healers, and mediums. It's finally on the back cover. I brought it home to my dad and I was like, hey, look. Yeah, finally. And my dad's always been, a great supporter of mine. But it took a few years.
Of course.
It took a few years of really, it took some time.
I want to go through a transformation that you did for a client.
Okay.
Without names, without anything. But
okay.
I wanted a little bit of more details. Like that person that was at that state and the outcome through this kind of process changed to that.
Great. Yeah. So I had a client that was, she was in her 50s. It was actually the first time I had launched my own mastermind. And she came in late and I knew it. Like just that claircognizant knowing, I'm like, someone's coming in late. So started in February. She came in March. She had 15 years prior had already written a book called The Way of the Dragon Heart. And the reason that this is important for me to include that is because it is a pretty remarkable story, actually. So the program that I had at the time was called the Earth Angels program. So I believe that there are people that have come into this world from the angelic realm who are here to help harmonize the frequency of Earth, to help turn the light on in people, essentially. And she was doing the same with dragons. Well, I was familiar with the dragon work, but I also, at that time was even like, okay, that's curious. Like, let me learn more. I'm not necessarily had my own experiences. So she came into the program. She was working for her family's accounting agency. She wasn't financially sovereign in her 50s. She had unbelievable gifts. I actually went into her for a foot reflexology session and I left being like, I don't know that this woman knows what she's capable of. Like, oh my gosh. So I reached out to her and I said, hey, I've got this program. She did all her meditating and said, okay, she's going to join. Took out a loan to actually join the program. And I also want to say that she was so willing to be rigorously honest with herself. It was like whatever was coming up, she was willing to face, she was willing to see, she was willing to transmute, and she was actually willing to heal. It wasn't just about like, was she able to take the coaching? There was just something within her that just had this, it was like enough. Okay. She didn't want to be working for the family. She didn't want to be under her father's, guidance, that sort of thing. And so she took that and ran with it. The book club that she launched, actually, she was launching it. She had 0 people sign up. She was super mad. She came into class. She's like, it's not working. Da, da, da. And I said, okay, let me tune in. Let me see what's going on. And I said, it's your mind. Like, you're so unbelievably powerful with your thoughts that you're actually blocking anyone from coming in. So I said, from this week, start focusing. My book club is absolutely sold out. My book club sold out. My book club sold out. She came in the next week. Her book club was sold out. She had made an extra like $3,000. And that kind of like started the trajectory of this. So by the end of the year-long course that she was in with me, she ended up launching her own 9-month course. It was priced $18,000. It was specifically focused on teaching people how to do grid work and awakening their dragon DNA within themselves. No ROI, no business, no nothing. She ended up selling it out to 9 people on her first launch for her first run. That was, I would say, one of the most significant, even for myself, personal experiences of being on that journey with her, because of also what it awoke within me.
Within the process, I would say, like, what kind of techniques do you use so people can imagine?
Yeah, so I'm a channel. People often say, what are you channeling? I channel, the best way I can say it is I channel my heart. I channel my higher self. I often say that your future self, your inner being, and your higher self are all one and the same. We have this kind of illusion that the higher self is external, but ultimately, if we can wrap our heads around that the inner being is getting information from the higher self, bird's eye view, and also future self, there's ways that we start to strengthen that connection to our intuition. So what I do with that is really help people to clear away the doubt and their own self-skepticism, their own self-disbelief, to be able to trust themselves more and trust themselves on like a deep intrinsic level that, okay, I have a feeling, I have a knowing, it doesn't quite make sense logically or rationally, but I just have this really insatiable feeling that I need to go left, even though society says go right. And it really is about like really trusting where that guidance is coming from. And so it does take a bit of trial and error, because ultimately we're detoxing a lot of programming that we've, learned.
So it's a mix of a mindset, correct? It's a mindset and intuition, where a lot of people don't go with the intuition because either they don't believe society, or they want to add logic to it. So when you add logic, usually your intuition, how do you make them align to the intuition? How you make them feel that the intuition is the right thing? And also the second one is intuition, is gut feeling.
So gut feeling, I've really been playing with this terminology specifically around that, because one, we know that within our gut system, right? We talk about microbiome, gut health, all of that. Ultimately, our gut actually has more nerve endings in our brain. So the gut feeling, I really do believe, is a nervous system embodiment that is connected to your intuition. So there's one way. For women, I think it's also a womb feeling. And that's why women's intuition is essentially so much stronger than men. But I have met some...
I can say, yeah, 100%.
I've also met some very powerfully, intuitively tapped in men. But I also believe that men not being able to cry and feel emotions, because society says that's a weakness, is actually what turns them off of their intuition, because the avenue that allows us to access our intuition is through our emotions. And so if we're disconnected from our emotions, we're disconnected from our intuition. It's like if you learn to actually love your emotions and love your feelings, and it will actually lead to your intuition. But if you're shut down from that, you're not even going to be able to access your intuition, let alone trust it, let alone open your heart, let alone... So the whole heart thing, not Hallmark Loves type of deal, is that your heart is a multidimensional gateway. It's a multidimensional portal. It is the access of your spirit self, your soul self. And so, yeah, it's feelings and emotions lead to the intuition that lead to that connection to the soul calling. So how do I get people to like actually start trusting it? It really is trial and error. It's this, like, how do you differentiate in your body what is a gut feeling? What is claircognizance? So claircognizance is a crown chakra ability that is that knowing. Like, you just know. Like, I don't know why, but I know. That to me is the strongest, most reliable one that's never really going to let you down. The clairvoyance is the ability to see. So you might see a vision, you might see a premonition. Where it gets a little bit tricky is the discernment of, are you seeing a want Are you seeing a desired outcome, or are you actually seeing the future? And so that's where action, choices, people talk about timelines and timeline jumping and all this. To me, it's choices. You make one choice, you're going to go this way. You make another choice, you're going to go this direction. So it is a bit of trial and error, and it can be a bit complex. And what I have found is that a lot of the reason that people don't trust their intuition, one, is because they actually don't trust themselves. They've been taught, trust your doctor, trust your teacher, trust your parents, trust your partner, trust literally anything other than you. Literally, trust anything outside of you but you. And so it is a bit of a detoxification. And that's where I use the channeling and the light language and that internal guidance kind of meditation to help start walking people into that inner world to better understand how your inner world actually functions.
I love this, and it will go to the next question. Society or life taught us to put a goal,
right?
Try to manifest it. Okay. What you're telling me is upside down.
Yeah.
Correct? Which means
I don't think it's wrong.
No, it's not wrong.
Right.
It's not wrong.
But I do think it is a bit upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's upside down, comes from within. And by coming in within, it will guide me to the right goal. Because I could put a goal. A lot of people say, like, put the goal that fits you, not what society tells you, not others. Goals should be yours.
Right.
So a lot of people put the goals that somehow they're influenced to put such goal.
Yeah.
And whatever you try to do and influence or manifest, maybe it doesn't come because it is not yours.
Right.
So that's why you switch it upside down.
Yeah.
When it comes from inside, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
you will at the end put the right goal, but maybe it's not the first step. The first step, it's within. Am I correct?
If there's anything that I have learned in my own manifestation and this, that, and the other, is that spirit, the universe, divinity, right place, right time, usually has a better outcome than what I can imagine. You know? And so like I could create a goal, I could create a vision, I could even receive maybe an image of something I'm like, I want that, or maybe I'm jealous of somebody and I'm like, okay, well the jealousy is showing me that it's because I actually desire that. And so you start to like understand that some of the own internal emotions are actually giving you clues as to where you want to be and what you want. But a lot of things, even in that own example, is that you want to be really careful on if you're creating goals because you don't feel adequate, because you think that getting these accolades is going to give you some form of self-worth or something along those lines. Whereas when it comes internally, it's again, it's like the energy priming. It's like if you are honing in your energy and you're mastering your energy in such a way that you just start to find that you're living a life that you couldn't have even dreamed, because oftentimes our imagination is actually what limits us. If you encourage someone to like envision themselves buying an island, most people don't even believe that that's possible for themselves, so they can't even envision it, right? And so if you're actually like, okay, what would my energy be to be sitting at a table signing the documents to actually buy an island? Like, where would my frequency be? Who would I have to be in order to actually have that life experience? Then it doesn't necessarily come from like, what can I get? What can I take? What can I, achieve? It's more that internal experience. And if you're at the point where you're actually signing the papers to buy an island, like, what does that also mean for the rest of your life? Like, what else is happening? And if you're doing it from a place of joy.
True. A question here.
Yeah.
I have to play the devil's advocate.
Do it. Go for it.
Let's say I'm a guy or somebody watching here said, like, a practical person.
Yeah.
Okay, and absolutely practical. Said, like, okay, I want to be wealthy. Doesn't matter, I put it from outside, I get it from inside. I just want to be wealthy.
Right.
What you will recommend to them?
I love this question. Quantum cash flow is one of my favorite courses.
Yeah.
And I call it quantum cash flow for a reason. Because one, like you were talking about past lives. if you made any vow of poverty in a past life, let's say in a past life you decided to be a priest or you decided to be a nun, or something happened with money and you're like, I never want to deal with money ever again, and you make this vow of poverty, okay, well, we want to go in and clear that, because that could be actually running in your script and not knowing why you're trying to break it. So that really helps a lot. The other thing is family lineage dynamics around money. Has your family, let's say, been in a lower caste system a majority of your life? So again, you just don't you like glass ceiling yourself, right? So some of that is mindset, but the other is amplifying the belief that it's possible for yourself. And because people say, money is a frequency, money is an energy, but if you don't really understand that, it's like, it's hard to grasp. So one of the ways that I actually like to interact with this and just kind of play with it is to see money as a guide, to see money as a guardian. So it's like if you and I were to sit here and envision, okay, well, instead of me being here, you're having a conversation with money. The consciousness of money knows everything that there is to know about money. The consciousness of money knows how people make money, knows how people lose money. The consciousness of money knows all of the emotional entanglements and attachment that goes into money. So if you tap into the understanding or the consciousness of money and you start asking a few questions, and also asking money to work with you as your guide to clear any limiting beliefs or any blocks or any barricades that you may have within, it starts to become a bit more of a fun game. And it's not just like, I have this goal and now I have to hustle and I'm going to stress myself out and I'm going to eat only meat and I'm going to get there and it's going to take a lot.
True.
It's because the other part of it is that joy is extremely magnetic. If you find somebody that is happy, that is electric, in a room, you're like, I want to be next to that person.
True.
I don't know what it is about them. Okay, well, so does money. And so that's where it's like, if you're stressing yourself out all the time to make money, in some ways you're kind of deflecting it from coming in. You may know the right people, may be able to make the right deals, but are you really allowing it to come in a way that makes it fun? Because otherwise you're going to burn out and it's just not going to be fun.
In the marketplace, curious, tells you in order to make money, you need to give value to the market.
Right.
Correct? So what you're saying, maybe somebody's giving value to the market, but it's not attracting the money, correct?
I love what you just said here, because I had like the vision of, okay, if you think of the market as the quantum field, and the value that you bring to the quantum field is actually like liberation, internal freedom, internal magnetism, internal self-expression, just that internal, the rapture, that expansion, that excitement, those like peak life just moments. I love ecstatic dance. I've been dancing ecstatically for a long time. But I can tell you that the moments that I remember on those dance floors, almost more than anything, is when I'm in such a space of presence in my physical body that time stops. And it almost looks like things are like moving in the Matrix and you're on the dance floor and things are just, and that's when I really know that is that divine flow. That is that pure present embodiment. And if you're in that space and it's simply like, thank you, please bring me more. Thank you, please bring me more of this experience. Then you end up amplifying and magnetizing that into your field. So if you're talking like, okay, market, but again, if we turn that into quantum field and we turn that into like the field of attraction, Abraham Hicks calls it the vortex, right? And we start going, okay, what value is my energy bringing to the field? Then you'll start magnetizing all sorts of incredibly beautiful things.
Wow. In the world where we live, once they understand that there is, and I want your view on this, people can really be educated on this kind of thing,
right,
to make that kind of thing. So let's put it in a simple words. Let's have universities, let's have schools to teach this and that. Why they're not having a proper education for what you're teaching? A proper, I mean like institutional. You think
I have so much to say on this.
It's a secret for the people, or why?
Because happy, liberated people are difficult to control. So to not get too far into that rabbit hole, one of my biggest things is that when you go into school, what is one of the first things that they teach you about your imagination is that it's not real. So then you get into this world of visualizing works. Well, visualizing is using your clairvoyance. Visualizing is using your imagination. Envision what you want to create in the world. All of that is imagination. It's clairvoyance. But if you take 5-year-olds and you put a cap on that and you say, this imagination is not real, don't ever believe that, you literally just pull and siphon any bit of personal power that that little kid has. And then that goes on for the rest of your life until you start to deprogram it. So the institutions, and especially in the United States, we're seeing a very interesting fall of systems in certain ways, and we're just at the beginning of it. But we're starting to see, right, that entrepreneurs, influencers, people that choose their own path that probably were college dropouts or maybe even high school dropouts are making significantly more money than doctors who now have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt to pay and probably aren't really happy about what they're doing. We just live in a really exciting day and age where there's so much information that's actually encouraging people to trust themselves and to forge their own path and to do their own thing, and, you know, light and shadow to all of it. But ultimately, I believe why there isn't a lot of institutions specifically for this is a part of an agenda that is keeping people really limited.
I believe so. What is interesting that you took your work towards entrepreneurship. What made you do this? And how do you help entrepreneurs at the end of the day?
Yeah, also very interesting question. I actually was friends with a woman who is a medical medium. And so she would have this uncanny ability to scan somebody's physical body and go, this is what you need to do. And I was like, wow, okay, interesting. And her dad was a doctor. And there was something in a conversation that I had with her that just flipped a light bulb on, because everyone in my family are entrepreneurs. My mother, my father, my aunts, my uncles, my grandparents, like everybody has kind of forged their own path. And so I think I got that encoding. I got that encoding of being willing to take risk. I got that encoding of not being able to have a boss, really. And so I started being able to understand also that people don't really have business problems. They have internal emotional issues that actually are represented in the container of what they're able to create, right? And I'm sure you've seen that in your own way in so many different ways. And so when it comes to like the quantum business coaching, people will come and ask me, okay, well, this is going on with my business. And then I'll kind of scan their field, look at a couple things. I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's time to write a forgiveness letter to your ex-wife, because you not being able to like release that tension is actually constricting your ability to receive on this end, because you're still mad. And so that quantum is kind of holistic, but it's holistic on a metaphysical level of looking at the anatomy of a person. I did also kind of start getting into the quantum CEO realm, which is what landed me in the crypto world, actually, to be able to kind of see the harmonization of business structure through the employees and the emotional health and well-being of the employees, the mindset. Are people working together? Are they upset about things? Like all of it contributes to the energetics of how things kind of move. And it's interesting, right, that we call businesses business entities. So it's like the consciousness of the business is actually something we can tap into, similar to the consciousness of money.
How did you manage working with entrepreneurs? Because majority, I would say, not majority, I think 99.9% of entrepreneurs, they're only focusing on like the strategy. What can you give me a skill to go to the next? What kind of the next hire that will take me to the next level? What are the new tech that I can implement to... And then you come and say, like, okay, put this aside now.
Right.
Let's talk about your intuition and getting out of the intuition, your next, I would say, business breakthrough. How do you make this mindset shift? How?
So I kind of actually go the opposite direction, is that I mostly work with intuitives and healers that don't have business savvy. Because most healers, they're creative types. They're artists, musicians. They're the dreamers. They're the visionaries. They oftentimes have the biggest heart, so much that they put themselves last, and they don't actually make money doing what they're doing, and they're just giving. And so I usually am like my community, I would say, is mostly healers or therapists that are desiring to have a little bit more freedom in their own like work-life balance. And so I usually teach it the other way around, because it's like go to the path of most alignment rather than trying to beat down the skeptics that are like, man, I don't know if I believe this. Like, great, I can only have that conversation for so long.
100%.
Personally.
Let's go into another part. We were discussing before shooting that we want to model something.
Yeah.
On the camera. So let's start doing it.
Okay.
Yeah. What
Good.
will do?
Do we have, how much time?
How much time do you need?
Let's just see. We could do it 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
Just kind of let it happen.
I'm here, guys. I'm not going anywhere.
All right. So feet flat on the floor, arms and legs uncrossed. I like to start with a prayer to set the space. So as we call in divine truth and love into the sacred space, we invoke the highest possible healing for each and every viewer and myself. We ask for the courage and compassion to speak and to hear from the purest form of self-love and forgiveness to all involved. And so first thing, let's go ahead and focus there on your root chakra at the base of your spine. And draw that line of energy all the way down to the center of Gaia, the center of Mama Gaia. And so I'm also going to ask for your own healing angel, your own healing guardian and guide to help create that as a very, very strong cord of energy. So that strong cord of energy, essentially, you can think of it like a sink drain. So it's going to be releasing any and all energy that is not yours, any energy that you are carrying around from other people, places, things, and just allowing that to simply release. Beautiful. And so bringing your awareness right there to the center of your own heart. We're just going to focus on heart, throat, and mind. So throat is also communication center. Heart-centered communication, speaking in truth, speaking in honesty, speaking in transparency, as well as connecting that to mind and vision. So just setting a no time, no space prayer for the clearing of sacral chakra, solar plexus, coming into that heart space. Iakiatria yo wamoya yo sia taranya kianihi ikia. Yayawa muyawa wapu asitri yakianya aya kia. And if your body feels the need to move a little bit, adjust, go ahead and just simply allow that energy to flow through you. And so now connecting to your throat space. So your throat is your center of creativity. It is your command center. I'm seeing for you right now that your throat is very open. And of course, that is attributed to a lot of your work here, but also for anyone else who is tuning in, we're going to go ahead and clear and cleanse that throat space to allow openness and liberation for what is important to be said, always in compassion, always in love, and allowing that illumination to come through, shining through that center of head space. So your center of head is also, can get a bit crowded. So setting that line of energy from the center of head down through the length of the spine and connecting that to main grounding cord. So this is going to help clear out any programming, any mind racing, any overthinking. And bringing your awareness right there to the crown of your head. So kind of like envisioning a disc right there at the top of your head. And just set that connection to open to your own higher self. So go ahead and take a moment to think of something that maybe has been causing a little bit of turmoil within. Maybe it's a grudge, or it's a barrier, or it's a decision that needs to be made. Maybe it's a bit of, how am I going to get the money for XYZ? Whatever it is, go ahead and allow that to come through. And just pick one for right now, just one. And allow your own inner world to clear anything that is in the way of you being able to find that absolute highest path of clarity and alignment. Ya siatria iwa huanaya kia siatri iwa wapun haakatria, and just let go down through your root chakra to the center of Gaia. And go ahead and forgive yourself for any confusion, forgive yourself for any commitment to maybe what is not in alignment. Sometimes we grip on to things that aren't in alignment for us for whatever reason. And we're just going to go ahead and cancel, clear, delete, release anything that is not in alignment with your own highest path of clarity, your own highest path of joy. And I'm also seeing like a worry coming up around anybody else that this might influence and affect. And I want to also encourage that when you are standing in your power, and when you are embodying your own highest truth, and when you are embodying your own highest joy, the ripple effect of the permission that it gives other people that may still be operating in extraordinary codependency, not able to trust themselves, is that when you start being a walking embodiment and example of that, it actually gives other people permission to do the same. Here we go. And so as you're seeing this path of clarity, let's go ahead and also ask your own internal guidance. What is the next right step that's going to point you in the direction of being able to welcome this into your life? It may be someone to call, it may be a letter to write, it may simply be standing at the beach and watching the sunset and choosing to be aligned with your own highest path of joy, and also being willing to let go of anything that is not that. Eakia siatria nyowa wapu ukunu uku satria yanya yawa ukunu kwa satri yaki kiani shu. And as we're here, go ahead and ask your higher self or your own inner guidance system. Is there any other message that is important for you to receive right now? You can allow it to come in as a telepathic message, a vision, a feeling, a knowing. Allowing all that is meant for you to come to you, to practice that open-hearted receiving, to be in receiving mode, that when beautiful things come your way, simply offer that prayer, thank you, please bring me more. I am open and ready to receive the blessings that life has to offer. And so we can go ahead and take a nice big deep breath in through the nose and letting go down through root chakra to the center of Gaia. And just kind of have a motto in my classes to giggle wiggle, ha 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 ha, because that joy really amplifies the field, amplifies your magnetism. So even if it starts off as fake laughter, it usually always turns into actual laughter. And so as we are manifesting, as we are creating, as we are envisioning the best possible outcome for all involved, we want to add that joy element, that laughter, that excitement, the yes, please, thank you, I'm here and open to receive. Beautiful. And so as we go forth, we integrate the healing and the lessons received with courage, self-love, and compassion. Our little mini clarity session here is complete. And when you're feeling ready, go ahead and open your eyes. You may want to jot down some notes, some things that came to you. Yeah, just thank you for being on that experience with me.
What did you see? What did you see? You're able to connect with me?
I think it's just because we're in close proximity, right? So my intention was really to, basically one of my gifts is actually to tune into a collective. And so if I'm in a room, and also the quantum field, right? So it's like viewership, past, present, future, right? So let's say someone even listens to this 2 years from now, they're in that quantum field with us. So they're receiving that prayer. So there's like a constant give and feedback that I receive. So I'll have like a class of, let's say 50 to 100 people, and they'll all be like, I felt like you were speaking directly to me. And it's because on a higher self level, I'm getting constant feedback. But since you're here, I saw specifically, we're going heart space to throat to mind, because especially being visible, especially being a leader, especially being an alpha, it's like we want to make sure that we're really speaking from the heart and also communicating with compassion and communicating with grace and also assertiveness, but in a way that it like comes across in a beautiful way that also mirrors and matches the vision of how we are showing up. And so it was really just a prayer to clear anything that's in the way of that. How do we show up with better integrity for ourselves and others?
Impressive. You saw a lot of blockages?
Not really. Maybe a little bit more around the heart than the throat. Your throat chakra is very open. And it's, because you're a speaker, a lot of us have that. I like to envision, especially for myself, like a diamond in my throat chakra, like an actual like spinning diamond, especially when I'm communicating on stage or with a lot of people. I want to make sure that I'm transmitting a currency of energy that is pure, that my heart is pure, that my intentions are pure. And so sometimes I just play with that visual. But yeah, your throat chakra was very open.
Exploding.
Yeah.
Sitara, we are in the Alpha Talks show. And if I ask you, how do you define an alpha in your world, in your view? What's an alpha?
I would say an alpha is... kind of two, I guess there's a lot of different ways to describe it, but I would say an alpha is somebody that truly leads people into their own highest truth. Not necessarily follow me in my path, but it is let me show you how to find your highest path. Like, what does that truly mean for you in that way? And also leading by example, really leading by example. I often share with my clients, I'm like, watch what I do, but if it fits for you, great. If it doesn't, then don't do it. Find the way that works for you. And the other piece about being an alpha, I really think, is having courage, bravery, assertiveness, and also humility to know when something is maybe right or wrong, or if apologies need to be made. There's a certain level of that genuine humility that is willing to apologize and willing to honor a higher calling, especially if new information has been presented.
I love the definition. If I ask you, what was your favorite failure to date? A failure that you're grateful for?
A failure that I'm grateful for, and I can't believe I'm saying this, so progress has been made. It has been trusting the wrong people.
You're correct. A lot of people should have said this when I asked this question, but actually, correct. True. If I flip it, what is your proudest moment to date?
My proudest moment... The first one that came up was actually being able to show my dad the book that I was on the cover of. That was the first memory that came up, because I really think that was even a turning point for my family. I think my work has also influenced my family's ability to accept themselves and their greater gifts. And to me, that's like it makes all of the challenges far more worth it than I think anything else.
Absolutely. We have a section called the Alpha Quickfire. So I'll ask you quick questions.
All right, let's go.
Yeah. So what's the most powerful lesson your past struggles have taught you?
Okay, trusting the wrong people led me to being $100,000 in debt right before the pandemic, running an online business that just, I felt like I was trudging up a landslide. That whole experience taught me that I was like the happiest version of myself, completely broke on the beach in Bali with like a ripped sarong and a coconut, happier than I had ever really been. And that, as I mentioned, it detoxified me of so much. To feel liberated from the idea of being bought by accolades or dangling carrots or whatever it is that's put in front of you. It's a nice feeling.
Lovely. If you could describe your transformation in one word, what would it be?
It'd probably be a profanity word.
What's the biggest misconception about your abilities?
Biggest misconception about my abilities? That other people don't have them.
What's one thing that instantly raises your frequency?
A hug.
What's the first step to unlocking your intuition?
Easiest would be learning to truly connect with Gaia, connecting with the earth.
If you had 30 seconds to teach someone how to rewire their money mindset, what would you say?
The check is in the mail. The check is in the mail. The check is in the mail. And just sing that over and over again.
Raise the frequency. The
Exactly.
money frequency. What's your daily non-negotiable habit that keeps you aligned?
Ooh. I am so not a routine lady. But I would say doing my best to wake up with a smile and to go to bed with a smile.
What's the boldest decision you've ever made?
Probably to fly to Dubai every single time.
Every single time.
Every single time.
What's one thing people do that blocks their success without realizing it?
Not trusting themselves.
What was the best, I would say, alpha advice that you've ever received and really changed everything, like changed your trajectory in a way? What's an advice?
It's so simple. It's just one step at a time. It's if you get caught up in the big vision of how am I going to make this happen? How am I going to become a multi-millionaire? How am I going to, whatever that goal is, it can be so intimidating that we get stuck in inaction. And so it's just every day, what's the next right step? Where can I be that's going to place me in the right place?
Sure.
Sometimes I get intuition to go to a cafe. Like, why go to that cafe? That doesn't make sense. And it's just like, go there, run into somebody,
True.
something happens. So yeah, it's just one foot at a time and next right step.
A lot of people watching us will be, okay, how can I reach Sitara? How? What's the easiest way?
Instagram.
Instagram. I'll put all the details in the description.
Yep.
What would be the last message you want to leave the audience with today?
It's honor your inner truth first. Above all else, honor that inner truth and trust your heart.
Trust your heart.
Trust your heart.
We have a section in the Alpha Talks where the Alpha guest have to do a couple of things. The first one is, that's we're gonna do it after the recording, is to write your experience in the show. But the second one is to write a question to the next Alpha guest.
Okay.
Nobody will know who you don't know who you're gonna write to, and they won't know who wrote the question. But it's a
Okay.
way of connecting the Alpha guests together. So that means that you need to answer a question from the previous Alpha guest.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I knew that was coming.
Right. I just hope I can read it. Step by step. The West and the East is impacting the way businesses develop. Who will win this new AI Cold War that is leveraging And what is a word of advice for leaders to work more together?
I love this. The answer is the light. The light wins. So what is the light? It is the light within us. What wins? The evolution of human consciousness. AI has not been able to recreate anything that the human is not capable of doing, and humans are far more powerful and far more capable than AI will ever be. It's when we give our power away to it that we are in trouble. So if humans can really start to honor each other as a light within, not worried about skin color, race, what's going on in the bank, what's not, it doesn't matter. It's when we recognize that ultimately what we all want is our families to be safe and to be able to be fed and to be able to experience a joyful life. That to me, it's returning to Gaia. It's coming back to the earth. It's simplifying the trajectory of where we're going.
Love the answer. Sitara, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure and an honor to have you with us on the show. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm positive that a lot of the viewers watching this episode will get a lot of knowledge out of it, especially in an area that a lot of people are not speaking about. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm still buzzing from this meditation. It's so good. I absolutely loved it.
Thank you very much. That wraps another inspiring episode of today's show. I hope that this episode has ignited your inner alpha and left you feeling inspired, motivated, and ready to conquer any challenge that comes your way. Remember, alphas aren't born, they're made. It isn't about dominating others, it's about embracing your authenticity, leading with integrity, and making a positive impact on the world. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the Alpha Talks on your favorite podcast platform. Leave us a review and share the podcast with your fellow alphas. Also connect with us on social media at Seif El Hakim. Share your thoughts, insight, and stories of personal and business growth with us. Let's create a movement of alphas supporting one another. The world needs more alphas like you exactly. Until next time, stay bold, stay driven, and stay alpha.